Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do a Q&A. I posted in my story on Instagram the other day asking for you guys to send through some questions, and I got an awesome response. I actually got so many I can't actually answer all of them, but I hope that I picked the most relevant and to the point questions to answer. In the description box I'm going to leave a list of the questions so you can kind of skim through to see if the information I am giving you is relevant to what you actually need to know, and I am answering questions for you. So to begin, was my sleep disrupted when starting the diet? Yes, I didn't sleep amazingly when I first started this diet, but this is one of those symptoms that just comes with the initial phase of the diet. Once you're adapted, you will sleep amazingly. It's one of those things, like all of the symptoms, if you're keeping up your vitamins and minerals, your micronutrients are so important for sleep, like magnesium especially. So you just may need to consider whether or not you need to supplement these things, and that symptom should absolutely fix itself. Next question, what is my favorite exercise? So I've always been a cardio person, so I've always been quite into running and some HIIT workouts, but I don't actually run that far usually. I normally try and keep it under 10K, and I know that's far for some people, but if you're talking to like marathon runners and whatever, that's not far at all. I would never do this 5 days a week kind of thing. I'd only ever do like 2 runs a week, but at the moment I'm training for a marathon, so my training schedule, which is in my head, is quite hectic. So I'm running like 6 days a week and trying to make it to like the 36-kilometer mark before I do the marathon and leave the rest for the actual day. But in terms of body composition, I prefer weights. So when I was doing my 5-week program, which I left on my Facebook page if you want to go and check it out, I was seeing amazing results. I found my muscle definition really showed, and muscle growth as well was actually really impressive for only 5 weeks. I found it slightly a little bit more taxing to go to the gym knowing that it was like leg day or whatever. There are a couple of days that are easier, so it's not actually taxing every single day, but it was a 6-day workout, so that was also really tough. I think I only completed the 6 days like once or twice. The rest of the weeks I kind of just did the 5 days and picked the heavier, harder workouts if I knew that I couldn't work out for the 6 days. Next question, do I have carb up? So no, I don't really. I had a carb up weekend, probably December last year, where I went skiing for the weekend, and that did kick me out of ketosis. But I think once you find, and I brushed on this briefly in my last video, is once you're adapted, it's really not difficult to get back into ketosis if you've had a carb up and you've been kicked out. I don't feel it necessary to have a carb up. I'm so satisfied with the foods that I'm eating, and I'm not craving anything. So I am really feeling the benefits of the diet in regards to eliminating sugar cravings, and I'm just not really hungry enough. But if I did want a carb up, absolutely I would have one. I think they're amazing for plateaus. You know, if you are a foodie and you do miss certain foods, then I think it's really important to have the carb ups just so the deprivation isn't so extreme. I have certainly had non-keto friendly items, but I kind of touched on it in my last video as well. I had like a block of like Cadbury fruit and nut, but if I'm really honest, and this is really gross, and I'm sorry if you don't want to hear it, but it actually gave me quite bad diarrhea afterwards, so that's not something that I would want to do often. It just didn't make me feel well, and yeah, I just don't like the insulin spikes because I get the come down, and I don't like it. But in saying that, I wasn't kicked out of ketosis, but I'm not afraid of carb ups at all. Like, I'd have one if I really wanted one. Do I drink alcohol? Yes. And how often? Probably every weekend at the moment. So since coming back to Australia from overseas, there's a lot on. Like, I want to see my friends, I want to go out. I'm only 24, so I enjoy the nightlife. I love like the events that are on at the moment in Sydney. So I just don't let this diet get in the way of my social life at all. How much do I drink when I go out? I don't even care. Like, I will just have a good night. I just am very specific on what I do drink. So I'll always have like red wine, but I won't go a heavy red wine. Occasionally I'll have a white wine, but I'll make sure it's quite dry. And if I'm drinking spirits, which is more commonly what I drink, I'll drink vodka, gin with soda, no lime, no fruit, nothing in there. And this gets me through, and so far hasn't kicked me out of ketosis. But just keep in mind that I have been adapted for a while, so I can afford to do this. Did I get keto breath and dry mouth? No, I didn't, but I know Hell did, and you just need to drink more water. You need to increase your sodium intake and just chug the water, and this should help. So naturally you are going to be thirsty in this diet because you're dropping water weight especially, so dehydration is a risk factor of this diet, so you just need to stay on top of it. And it will pass. It's just in the initial phases of the diet. Once you're adapted, it won't be an issue. How many days into the keto diet did I start to lose weight? So at first, I would say it was water weight going first. People started to comment probably after like a week and a half. People asking what I was doing, and like, yeah, that's probably a week and a half is when I started to look slimmer and I started to lose that water weight, and then the weight just kept on falling off. So that's when I kind of had to reassess my calorie goal. What do you do if you hit a plateau? I touched on this in one of my like early vlogs, but I think the best thing to do when you've hit a plateau is shock your body. So if you've been doing the same training every single day and you're getting bored in the gym or bored in what you're doing, like functional training, whatever, just mix it up, do something completely different. Introduce your body to stress in a new environment almost. And another thing as well, and it's really, really important to go back to tracking if you've hit a plateau, because it often means that you've kind of slipped on things, or like if you start gaining weight, you've probably started going over your calorie goal, and you just need to rein it back in and then gain control, and then you can kind of ease up a bit. I don't track anymore, but sometimes I do go back to tracking if I can kind of feel like the benefits are not as strong as they were before. And another thing with plateaus, and some people this works really well with, and often a lot of people, majority of people will need to do this, is have a carb up. I haven't needed a carb up because this diet is just me, like it suits my lifestyle so well. But having a carb up will just totally reset you, and then you'll be way more determined on Monday if you're having a weekend of carbing up or cheating or whatever you want to call it. On Monday you'll be way more determined to get back into ketosis, and that's what Hell did as well. She had that week in Perth where she just kind of let things slip and like was a little bit more flexible with what she was eating and what she was doing, and then when she went back into ketosis, she just felt 100 times better. She just wasn't suffering any of the symptoms anymore, and it was just a total reset. How long have I been doing this diet for? So I started around UFC last year, so that was September, I think, like the very beginning of September, and I haven't gone back since. Like, I've just absolutely loved the diet, and obviously now I'm taking videos of myself, so trying to spread the awareness of it. So yeah, it's honestly been life-changing for me, literally for every aspect of my life. Next question, low carb or keto? So the big difference between low carb and keto is I just don't see low carb diet being sustainable. I think the goal in keto, and it's something that you definitely, it's gonna keep you there, is the fact that you're testing to be in ketosis. So if you're low carb and you don't actually have a goal, it's so easy to slip, like if you're just trying to keep the carbs low. But in saying that, everybody is different, everybody's lifestyles are different. I certainly do not go against low carb diets. I think it's absolutely amazing for some people. Keto just doesn't work for everybody, so I would absolutely recommend a low carb because you will see amazing benefits. And even before I was testing positive to keto, easing into it, I absolutely felt a lot of the benefits of the ketogenic diet. I had the energy, the clarity, and I just, started losing weight, and that's when I wasn't even testing, so I was technically just low carb. I've always lived a low carb kind of life, so it wasn't that difficult for me to make the transition into keto. But if you are one to struggle with getting into ketosis, or you've come from a high carb diet, so like for example Hel, she was vegan, so she got a lot of her calories from rices and legumes and beans and starchy vegetables and things like that, and they are very high in carbs, so it was quite difficult and such a shock to her system to make the transition. So to avoid kind of getting hit with the keto flu right away, I think it's a good idea to kind of try the low carb option before you make the transition into ketosis. How many days a week do I need to be in ketosis to reap the benefits of the diet? This is actually a really good question, because in the initial phases, you can't afford to go in and out of ketosis, because then you're not going to get to the adaptation phase, and then you're technically not going to actually feel the best benefits of the diet. So it is a really, really hard, grueling month or so. Some people it takes less to get adapted. But once you do become adapted, and I've spoken about this in my last video, it's absolutely worth it. So it's going to be a tough month or however long it takes, but once you're there, it's worth it. So in the early stages, don't even think about having cheat meals or carb ups. It's just not the time. Wait till you're adapted. So then once you have been comfortably in the lifestyle, in the diet for a little bit longer, slipping in and out of ketosis just isn't a huge deal, because you can just go straight back into it. How did I know I needed to up my calories? Well, because I was dropping a lot of weight really quickly, like it was just falling off. I was on 1,670 calories, and I was exercising at the same time, and I just continued to drop the weight, and I just didn't like the way I looked. I felt great, but I just thought that I was looking a little bit bony there. So I put my calories up, and so far so good. At the moment, because I'm running such long distances, I've actually put them up even more. So at the moment I'm sitting on about 2,700 calories, just because I'm burning a lot of calories on these long runs. So running half a marathon in a day, that was something that like I did like once every kind of 4 or 5 months, but now I plan on doing that like once or twice a week for the next month or so. So I do really need to make sure I'm eating enough to make sure I don't fade away. Do I calculate total carbs or net carbs? At the end of the day, I will calculate net carbs. The thing with my Fitness Pal, and I'm not sure about Chronometer, I think it might be the same, but I could be wrong. It does only calculate total carbs for you, so you do need to minus the fiber yourself. But this is really easy. It all comes up in the same nutritional overall page. So it's just a matter of minusing the total fiber from the carb total, and then that will give you a net carb total. Are there any books that I recommend? To be completely honest with you, I've only read one, and that was Scott Gooding's book, and I found that really, really good. It's called The Keto Diet, and I liked that because he did kind of translate the scientific information into real life case studies and scenarios, which was really helpful. And I find that would be perfect for someone who has no science background at all. For those of you who watch my channel, I'm a registered nurse, so I do have a bit of a science medical background, I do have a science medical background. So I do understand quite a bit of the terminology that is spoken about on these websites and articles and podcasts and videos and things like that. But in terms of books, so I've been recommended the Ketogenic Bible, and that is by Jacob Wilson and Ryan Lowry. I've been recommended this book by a nurse practitioner. I think she was from the States. She just messaged me and she said that it's really, really good. It's literally her Bible. I listen to more podcasts, so I'm obsessed with like Dom D'Agostino, and he did an amazing podcast. He's actually done a couple on the Tim Ferriss show. I've actually posted that on my Facebook page, so if you go over there and have a look, there's the link to the podcast. I watch YouTube videos as well. So Thomas DeLure, and he's quite big, so he's actually quite inspiring for, I would say, and like, not saying that not inspiring for females, because obviously I look up to him as well, especially my weight training. But I think that a lot of people are fearful of starting this diet because they're going to drop all this weight and they won't be able to maintain their muscle mass or grow muscle mass. And I think it's just really interesting to see his take on protein and things like that. Jason Whitrock, he's exactly the same. He actually is a bodybuilder, I'm pretty sure, so he's really helpful. Leanne Vogel, she's amazing because she talks about the hormonal aspect of the diet, and that's something that I can't actually effectively answer because it's not something that I've been through. I guess you could say I don't suffer from PCOS and I don't have any hormonal imbalances. I don't have poor skin. I don't have an issue with my period. So it's not something that I can relate to. So I don't actually know much about it. But if I do get questions in regards to, I get a lot like people losing their periods and things like that, I will always kind of put them, like, send them in Leanne Vogel's Healthful Pursuit direction. After a carb up, how do you get back into keto? So easy, you go back to tracking and you start again. You can do intermittent fasting. That will often get you in really quickly, and even training on an empty stomach, so doing HIIT workouts fasted or just HIIT workouts in general. They're really, really good because you're burning through your glycogen stores, and then essentially when there's none left, your body's going to switch the fuel source. Just make sure you do it properly and safely, so make sure you are getting enough micronutrients like vitamins, minerals, and drinking a shitload of water with sodium, so you are avoiding the keto flu and all those other nasty symptoms that are going to send you in the opposite direction. Next question. So if I were to have children one day, would I put them on the keto diet? No. Because there's a couple of reasons. So kids need protein to grow, and this is a moderate protein diet, so absolutely I would not put that restriction on them. I think it was like 100 years ago when they were using this diet initially to treat kids with epilepsy. They were getting fantastic results for that reason, for that kind of diagnosis. However, they found that there was a stunt in their growth, so they were hesitant and selective as to who they were putting on the diet. So I think this is a really important factor to consider if you are considering putting a child on this diet, which I don't know why you would unless there was medical reasons. Just to be very mindful of the protein intake, and yeah, so probably not. And also another thing, like kids, you're not with a kid 24/7. They go to school, they go to parties, they go to their friends' houses, they have sport. Like, imagine being like taking your kid to like their soccer game and you're telling them that they're not allowed to eat the orange that the coach is handing out. Like, imagine that. So no, I absolutely would not put a kid on this diet because I don't think any child should be on a diet. I think it's something that should come later as an intervention. If there are medical purpose or reasons, then maybe, but yeah, absolutely not. And if you are trying to get your kid into ketosis, who's to say that they're not going to go to school and trade their healthy fats for like sugar and glucose? There's a whole lot of trading going on at school. I was bloody good at it because my mum packed us the worst lunch boxes in the world. How many carbs in your macros to kickstart ketosis? So it's generally between 20 and 25 grams. If you are going over this, you are exposing your body to just too many, and your body will always take the glycogen stores over the fat stores, and therefore you're not going to get into ketosis, or you're going to prolong the process of getting into ketosis. So absolutely 20 to 25 grams. And I get I've had like a few vegans contact me being like, on a vegan diet it's kind of impossible to stay that low, so anything below 30 is quite dangerous. I don't know guys. My sister is in ketosis, and she is reaping the benefits at the moment, and she probably will. There's no turning back for her. She's so happy with where she is. Yachting. So I get a lot of questions as to how I got into yachting and what it was kind of like. So I met a girl when I was traveling in South America a couple of summers ago, and she was doing it, and at that point I was feeling a little bit lost. I didn't love nursing, and I also didn't want my trip to end. I did 6 months traveling through Central and South America, and I kind of met her, and then I was like, well, this is perfect. Like, I can travel, I can get paid really well. Like, the money is amazing in yachting, and yeah, it was just the ideal job for me. It was kind of like a gap year idea for me. So what I did was I moved over to Antibes in south of France, and I did a course called the STCW course. I can't remember what it stands for. It cost about €1,200 to do. It was 5 days, and then you kind of sign up to agencies, and then they'll sort out the jobs for you. You go through like interviews and things like that. The fact that I was a registered nurse was like amazing. I didn't even know that they had registered nurses on these super yachts, but then when you think about it, like, they're trillionaires, like why shouldn't they have a nurse if they can have a nurse, kind of thing. What I found after the 7 months, it was a fantastic experience. Like, I really did have a good time. I loved the crew, and I loved the opportunities of that the boat provided me with traveling and whatnot. It didn't move too much, but I lived in Italy for like 7 months, so you can't really complain. But I found it really unfulfilling. I don't love cleaning, and that's pretty much all it is. I don't love hospitality, and the nursing that I was doing, I was pretty much just handing out band-aids to trillionaires. So I don't know, it wasn't for me. It wasn't fulfilling. I worked with no purpose, but it also gave me time to figure out what it was that I really did want to do. And yeah, that's what kind of triggered this. Like, I wouldn't be on this diet, I wouldn't be living this lifestyle now if it weren't for that experience. And yeah, I made some lifelong friends, which was amazing. And yeah, I would absolutely recommend it to anyone in particular who is feeling slightly lost, who is kind of at the point in their life where they've started a career, they're not loving it, or they're just unsure of themselves at the moment. Like, it's a wonderful idea to go over there and make a lot of money in a short period of time. It's hard work, but it's worth it, and you travel the world on a super yacht and with like-minded people who love to travel and love the same things as you. I was on a healthy boat, so most of the crew trained every single day. We ate really well. There was no drinking on boards, but we were shore-based anyway, so we could kind of get off and go to the bars there. But a lot of the other boats are quite party orientated, but they're loads of fun, so it just depends what you're after. So honestly, it's just a matter of just moving there and figuring it out when you're there. Like, you do your course and then you let somebody else kind of find you a job. It's pretty awesome and pretty easy, but absolutely highly recommend it. I'm not going to go back though. It's not for me. I'm done. That was an amazing experience, but I'm finished. But yeah, absolutely would recommend it. And this is going to be my final question, and it's an important one because I get asked this at least like 3 or 4 times a week. Can I write you a meal plan? No, I can't write you a meal plan. And not only because it is exceptionally time consuming to write up a meal plan specifically suited to a person's height, weight, lifestyle, occupation, exercise routine. Like, that's a lot of work. That's a big job, and I have people asking me to do it for them all the time. But another thing is the initial phases of figuring out this diet. So the month that's going to be kind of painful and you're going to be like consumed, and this is going to like, I'm not going to lie, the keto diet will kind of take over your life, just to put it lightly, for a few weeks there until you do get adapted. They're really important weeks for you to learn and to navigate your way through the ins and outs of doing this diet. I can write you a meal plan, and I can write you 4 weeks, and you can pay however much money for somebody's 4-week meal plan that they've written up that isn't individually specific or suited, and at the end of the 4 weeks you're going to be lost because you wouldn't have known how to do it. You wouldn't know how to track your macros, you wouldn't know what is in each food and the macro count of each food. So it is really important to familiarize yourself with a tracking app, so Chronometer, MyFitnessPal, or whatever else is out there, and you're going through all your favorite foods and you're figuring out whether or not they're carb dense and if they're nutritious. And you need to find that balance yourself. You need to get to know your own body. You need to know what makes you feel good, what makes you feel bad, what you can replace this with, what you can replace that with. And yeah, it is just really important to do it yourself. I don't think it is appropriate for you to be paying $600 for somebody to write you a meal plan. Recipe ideas, that's absolutely different, and I'm trying to pump them out the best I can. Not that I do it that often, but I just think it's really important for you to kind of grip this diet yourself and figure it out for yourself and learn how to do it properly, so then you can actually maintain it long term and it is sustainable. But I think that's enough for the questions, and I'll be doing another Q&A probably in the next couple of weeks, only because I had so many questions sent through, but I hope that I've answered a few important ones. And yeah, I will see you next time. But thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and jump on my Instagram as well if you want some meal and recipe ideas. I occasionally will do my stories of my dinners. I'll probably do one for tonight for you. And yeah, thank you again for watching. I'll see you later.